Welcome back, everybody, to the channel. Steelers, Patriots recap. All I can say is, wow, man. I'm almost at a loss for words, but yet I still have so much to say. After watching that one, had to watch this game on my phone, which is increasingly frustrating. But I was still able to catch all of it, and I've kind of caught up on all the numbers and everything. Just a really disappointing loss. Just in terms of, we can talk a little bit at the end of this recap about just some kind of broader view or broader spectrum about where the Steelers franchise is at. I got some thoughts on like Mike Tomlin and just the general direction of the Pittsburgh franchise. But just trying to nail this thing down to tonight and just the last 5 days, just incredibly frustrating, man. The Steelers, they showed the graphic on Amazon, first team ever this late into the season to lose to back-to-back two-win opponents. Um, and that's how it felt, man. Like, these are two games that were on the schedule at the beginning of the year that you thought that the Steelers definitely, needed to have, or winnable games. And even, last week, this time last week, we looked at these games like, both the Pats and the Cardinals coming in, not playing very good ball. And just specifically the Pats, man, like, score was 21-18. The Steelers made it closer later in the game than it really was throughout. They got up 21-3 in the midway through the second quarter. And really from there, the Steelers had chances to win this game, but they didn't have really any business winning this game, to be honest with you, after they let New England get up on them like that early. But even the 21-point aspect of it, this is something that the Patriots have only done one time this season previously, which happened in week 7. They have not scored more than 20 points except one time coming into this game. They had 21 points midway through the second quarter. So just in terms of things that are frustrating to watch, just not even really showing up a little bit, and especially coming off of the game on Sunday, right? So they come in, they play the Cardinals. The Cardinals, come in, they give them an absolute beat down at home. That stuff happens. You listen to some of the comments post game the last couple of days. Jalen Warren, Deontay Johnson, some other guys, just straight up saying, "Hey, we overlooked the Cardinals." I don't see how that's possible, especially when you're a team like the Steelers, who's been winning on the tiniest of margins already. But it is what it is. You learn from it. It happens. You got a quick opportunity in 4 days' time to get right back on the field and kind of make amends, come out, put that stuff behind you. And then they come out tonight and they just get absolutely blitzkrieged. And that's really what it felt like. The Pats were absolutely ready to play from the jump, and the Steelers were not. I mean, it took them till midway through the game to where I felt like the majority of the players were kind of awake. And I think that's really, it's an indication of a lot of different things. Chemistry, coaching, players just, I don't like questioning like heart or hustle or anything like that, but I do find it frustrating when you have these types of games or these stringing together of performances such as this. But, really just general thoughts on the game. Offensively, still completely anemic. But I really want to start the game with the defense, just because this game, we've talked about the offense. We know the offense is absolutely terrible, but the Steelers defense didn't play well in this game. Like, the numbers will bear it out to where they're probably going to be fine in terms of like the efficiency numbers. But I think that those will get a little bit skewed based on how conservative New England got down the stretch. Mainly just because I don't think that Bill Belichick, thought in a million years that the Steelers were going to come back and win this game with the type of offense that they have. But Bailey Zappi comes in and he just lights the world on fire. I mean, the Steelers did a relatively good job stopping the run. I want to say that the Pats only had like a 17 rushing success rate, 17% that is. So that was really good. They controlled the line of scrimmage well. But just in the passing game, man, like, there were guys running wide open everywhere. The Patriots, they took what they saw on the Cardinals film, attacked the spine of the defense. They went after the safeties. They went after the linebackers, particularly Mikel Walker. DeMonte KZ had a rough game, just over and over and over. They used Hunter Henry. They basically got their way in terms of just being able to pick and choose the matchups that they wanted to exploit. And the Steelers just never adjusted. And it was really frustrating because when you lose one way on Sunday and then you come back and lose the exact same way in 4 or 5 days' time with the same players, specifically Mikel Walker. Know he's a backup and depth is running pretty thin, but you can't put those guys in those positions to where, I mean, opposing teams have the tape. Like, Bill O'Brien was watching the same tape we watched last week. We saw what the Cardinals were able to do. They laid the blueprint, and really New England just hit copy paste. And then just in general, like some of the throws that Zappy was hitting, I don't want to take anything away from him. I thought he played quite well, especially all things considered. But just like even some of the ridiculousness, like the whole shot that he hit from the far hash, KZ's playing cover two on that play. Uh, no disrespect to Zappy whatsoever, but he does not have the type of arm that should ever, 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 ever hit a whole shot on you as a safety. Like it just can't happen. Like you can't take that bad of an angle. You have to be able to have enough range to get over top of that ball and at least knock it away. Because he just like he's got a BB gun, man. Like this isn't like Justin Herbert's just out there throwing lasers. Um, so that was incredibly frustrating as well. They did some things with Zeke in the passing game, just getting the ball out of his hands quickly. I thought the pass rush was extremely quiet. I thought TJ Watt had a really quiet game as the course of the game kind of went on. And New England, like I said, got conservative. They were allowing the Steelers to hang around more than anything else. I kind of just felt like, okay, like eventually TJ is going to make one of those plays that we kind of are really used to seeing. And he just didn't really make he didn't really put his imprint on the game today. I want to say he played poorly, especially until I get to watching the tape. But it just didn't feel like he had that much of an impact, which is a rare thing, especially for him. Unfortunately, Alex Highsmith, got banged up. TJ got banged up a little bit at the beginning of the game. So who knows, like if that was a factor too. I thought Cam Hayward played really well. He was a big factor in terms of helping stop the run game. Landon Roberts had another good game. Really the guys who I felt like played well, Mick Fitzpatrick, I would have to go back and really look at the all 22 to see kind of his impact on the game. But it seemed like just early in the first half, I kept seeing him after the play, almost trying to get everybody energized. He would make a stop or a tackle and he's immediately getting up, like clapping his hands, trying to get guys going, because I really felt like in the first half, they were just sleepwalking on defense. Like, I don't know if it was one of those things where they expected the Patriots offense to look like they have looked over the past month, which has honestly been awful. And maybe they were just surprised and it took a while to get adjusted. But Fitzpatrick, I thought that he at least brought some energy, which was nice. Joey Porter Jr., not really a much towards his side. I know he dropped an interception towards the sideline. Would have been a tough catch, but would have been a nice one to have, obviously. Defense settled in over the second half. I thought they, kind of after halftime kind of got it together. But like I said, I think some of that was honestly just the conservative approach from Bill O'Brien, because once they were able to get that positive game script and get up on the Steelers ain't built to come from behind 21-3, right? They're not even built to score 20 points at this rate. I mean, we've seen it all season long. We saw it last season. These games that the Steelers win, they need to be low scoring, they need to get turnovers, and they need to have a good game script to where they can run the football. And speaking of that, we knew it was going to be difficult to run the football. New England was the number one rushing EPA and rushing success rate rushing defense coming into the week, and they showed that. They did a really good job controlling the line of scrimmage. There were very few holes, I felt like, to run through today for Najee Harris or Jalen Warren. I feel like they tried some different stuff. They ran a lot of tosses, tried to get out on the perimeter because New England's got all those big guys on the defensive line that are good at, two gapping and really holding the point of attack. But like I said, just nothing really working. Najee had a couple nice plays on some checkdowns, but overall, neither running back was able to really do a ton. In this one. And same thing really for the receivers. This offense was really lifeless. George Pickens, I think, finished the game. I want to look 5 catches, 19 yards. I mean, that's just absolutely absurd. I don't even know how that's possible, that you have a kid that's that talented, that explosive, and you're averaging 3.8 yards per catch. I don't even understand how that happens. Just a complete non-factor. Deontay Johnson had the 1 touchdown. Trubisky went over the top. They got a cover 0 look. They sent a little pressure at him down there near the red zone, just outside of the red zone. He threw kind of a go ball. Johnson did a really good job adjusting to that track. That's not an easy catch to make, especially over your shoulder like that. But again, he was relatively quiet. I think 2 of his 3 catches came on the last drive. In garbage time. So there's nothing going in the passing game, man. I thought Mitch, his performance overall was extremely lackluster, even, given the context of you can't expect a ton from backup quarterbacks in the NFL. he's one of the highest backups in the league. So I think you expect at least some sort of competency. But I don't really think he provided that tonight, to be honest with you. Really was the same story with Mitch, right? We talked about it in the film breakdown that I did a couple days ago on the Patriots game from last year. The same things get Mitch in trouble over and over. It's the eyes, it's the decision making, it's the lower body mechanics. Like you saw him tonight. Like I had so many people tweet me while I was trying to watch the game on my phone. It was like, there's Mitch falling away on a throw. There's Mitch falling away on a throw, and it's just like he's never going to learn because at this point in his career, he is what he is, right? Like you know what you're going to get with him. But it's just frustrating because, like I said, the way that the Steelers are going to win games is going to be these close games where they generate turnovers and don't turn the football over. And it's tough because you throw the one interception, and it's like, well, you can't tell him, be you want him to be aggressive, but you know that he needs to be cautiously aggressive and not take too many chances to where he's going to put the ball in harm's way. There was only one interception, but he could have easily thrown two or three more. We had the one called back on the interception from JC Jackson. I didn't see the replay very well, to be honest with you, because I was looking at it on my phone. That looked like a really soft call. But either way, there was a couple other ones that were in harm's way. He overthrew a screen pass by several feet that could have been picked off. It's just he's so volatile, and I think that makes him difficult to trust as a backup, even in the short term. So I know I've seen some quotes from Tomlin's presser. I haven't got around to watching that just yet. It sounded like he was committed to starting him next week against the Colts. Just my opinion. I would not be surprised if they turned to Mason Rudolph. They were close to doing that last year when Pickett got hurt later in the season, just because I think that they have more. I do, even if I'm not a believer in Rudolph's talent overall to get you by more than just like a spot starter or a backup. But I do think that Rudolph gives you more consistency, maybe not as many highs, but maybe not as many like lows. And I think that, even the interception he threw tonight, that quickly ends up just a couple plays later into a touchdown. And, it's a 3-point game at the end of the game. There's a lot of plays you can point at in terms of why they won or lost, but that's one of the biggest swings in the game. So, that was just really tough. In terms of the offensive line, there was some pressure issues, but I didn't see anything that just looked like, overly concerning. Like I said, the Patriots coming in, they don't have that dominant pass rusher just up front. Matthew Judon's out. So it was really depressing to see them not be able to attack the deep portions of the field. They had the size advantage with Pickens over their two corners, Jackson, Jonathan Jones. Both those guys have given up a bunch of big plays down the field over the last 2 years. I tweeted out that stat about how many deep balls they've given up. And then they don't even try. I mean, they didn't even try. I don't even think that I can remember a deep ball to Pickens today. I know and then, even the situational play calling, which again, it's Canada's offense. Okay. So you have to be understanding of that. Like they weren't going to be able to completely just overhaul the thing in late November. And I totally get that. Okay. But at the same time, Mike Sullivan and Eddie Faulkner, I don't know what the game plan was tonight. Like some of the stuff that they were doing, like please go back and look at how many times they ran the ball on 2nd and 10. Running the ball on 2nd and 10. They even ran the ball on second and 17, I believe, as well. And it's just like, man, like you can't be a functioning offense like that because all that is doing is best case scenario. You're putting your quarterback in 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, things like that. And with a backup in the game, especially one that you don't really trust because he's not playing particularly well, those are not good situations to get yourself into because then you open up all the possible doors for a defensive coordinator, Bill Belichick, those guys over there to scheme up whatever it is, disguises, blitzes, drop 8, drop 9. And I thought the Patriots just really outcoached them. Like you saw them do some creative stuff. We talked about the drop 8 stuff. They did that a couple different times and that threw Mitch off. And then just one more thing on Trubisky that really bugged me about this game was I want to say it was the play before the 4th down turnover in the red zone that they didn't convert. That he shoveled it to Jalen Warren after he was under a little bit of pressure. They ended up turnover on downs. But him sliding there, like, again, I don't like questioning like players' effort, heart, whatever. But bro, you're like 3 yards from the first down marker. You're a backup quarterback. This is like your best and probably last shot to prove that you're a starting caliber player in this league, right? You got a 3-4 game sample size to go out there and do your absolute best. How you don't dive head first for that first down in that moment, down multiple scores, knowing you need to go get this ball in the end zone to win this game, is just mind boggling to me. And that really rubbed me the wrong way. And it's just really frustrating, and then they end up turning the ball over the next play. Again, that's just one play. There's a ton of different plays, but, just schematically, talk about some of the play calling stuff. Like I said, the first down runs, but the second long runs really grinding my gears just over and over and over. Not just because running on second long is not efficient whatsoever, but also doing it against the Patriots, who have the best run defense in the league. And the Steelers weren't running the ball efficiently as it is. If they were getting 3-4 yards a pop and they were having like a 45-50% rushing success rate, that's one thing. But they weren't. Like, they really struggled to run the ball at all. Like, if you look at their rushing success rate for the day, I think it was 39%, 17% first down rate. They just did not do a very good job on early runs. They were 33% success rate on early runs. That's a good way to get yourself into third and long situations. And that's not a benefit to your backup quarterback. Um, and then just in general, another offensive line thing, like, we've talked about it every week. I feel like on the channel, on Steelers Now, and I've wrote about it, talked about it at length on Twitter. The snap issues and shotgun are just mind-boggling to me. I just don't. They've had these issues dating back to Pouncey, Kendrick Green, 2 years of Mason Cole, all these different guys. I don't know what it is from a coaching standpoint, but I don't know what it's going to take for the offensive coaching staff to start to place more of a priority on this through the week to get these snaps right. As a quarterback, and I wanted to go on a little bit of a rant about this because I had someone hit me up and was talking about how this affects quarterbacks. So it'll be a good opportunity for me to explain. So it's like a 30-second rant. So when you're in the shotgun, one of the disadvantages of being in the shotgun is, yes, you are further away from the rush and you have to take fewer steps. So it's easier for a lot of quarterbacks to get on time. However, when you're in the shotgun and you have to catch the snap, your eyes drop from the defense. So you think about all these rotations and stuff that defenses are doing right now, post-snap rotations, all these guys moving around. If you're in third and long situations, you probably got a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage, who's coming, who's dropping, all this different stuff. When you're a quarterback and you already have to drop your eyes to catch the snap, but you don't know where the ball is going to be, and half the time it's rolling back like a bowling ball at your shoelaces, that makes it extremely hard to play quarterback. It's just mind-boggling. This is like football 101 type of stuff. A bad snap every now and then completely happens. I do see more snap issues now than I feel like I did 5 or 10 years ago. And maybe that's me just being more keen to look for it, knowing how much it affects quarterbacks after talking to people and just like reading about it, studying it, all this different stuff. But this cannot happen 6, 7, 8 times a game. I think it happened on like 3 of Mitch's first 4 pass attempts where the ball is literally rolling back there to him. It ended multiple drives last week. It has to be fixed. Like, whatever they got to do. If Cole can't snap the ball in shotgun, one of two things need to happen. You need to reduce the amount of time you're in shotgun. That's not going to happen because of how much they run quick game, because of how comfortable both the quarterbacks are like that. Or you try somebody else at center. That's what's got to happen. Whether it's James Daniels, who's done it in Chicago. If you don't want to move him, put Herbig in there. Let him roll. That is what it is. It's not like Mason Cole's been blocking at an exceptional rate either. So it's not like you can't pull him out of the lineup or it's going to make a huge deal there either. It's not. Like, there has to be some sort of change. Or we're going to sit here and keep talking about the same issues over and over and over. So, yeah, I think that was most of the issues. Late game play calling, like games on the line, 4th and 2. A lot of people are going to be questioning this decision to throw deep. Here's my issue with the Steelers. We talk about them being so static on offense and just how much ISO ball they ask their receivers to do. If the game is on the line and it's 4th and 2 and you get middle field close, so you're getting cover 1, safety in the middle of the field. If the best thing that you have in your arsenal is to run drive with 2 go balls on the outside, and you're going to throw the go ball on 4th and 2, if that's the best thing you got, pack it up, go home. It's just not. It's not smart ball. At 4th and 2, you only need a couple first downs to go get in field goal range. You're only down 3. Taking a deep shot there is just not smart. If you want to do that on 3rd and 2, and you got a 4th down in your pocket, go ahead and do it. Whatever. If you want to do that in the first half when you get single high, I'm all about taking shots. If they leave George Pickens 1-on-1, take the shot. It's 4th and 2 at the game on the line. You have to have something better than that. And to do like an old school drive concept, and what I mean by drive is, if you look at the underneath receivers, I want to say it was Freiermuth and Robinson. Robinson's running a drag, and then Freiermuth's running like a basic, like a dig or in route behind him. And they do end up catching a little bit of a rub on the corner that's guarding Robinson. So he is open if you throw it on time, and that's where his eyes go. but they are dropping out like a whole defender from the other side, if I remember correctly. But regardless, Mitch never looks at him. He just sees pre-snap, single high. This is where I'm going. I don't like the decision, but I don't like the play call either. Like, do something to where you get your receivers in a bunch and you get some type of good route combination. Heck, if you want to run snag, smash, spot, spacing, anything you want to do. Heck, if you want to run mesh, if you know you're getting man coverage, which I would have anticipated getting man coverage there, run mesh. That's fine. But just to come out there and just throw a go ball, which is a coin flip, like these go balls and these back shoulder fades, like that's how you say they're 50-50 balls. It's not that the Steelers don't have the dudes to do it or they can't throw it well or whatever, but those type of routes, they're just not high percentage throws and they're all over the playbook and it drives me insane. Um, but just like I did want to just kind of touch on just the state of the Steelers, just a little mini rant to end this one. And all this stuff, my guys, is just straight up my opinion. You guys can disagree with me. Like people on Twitter go crazy, especially like when the Steelers aren't playing well. They take it out on me, the beat writers, other content creators, everybody else, as if it's like our fault that their team's losing. Everybody's frustrated. I totally get it. So anything I'm gonna say is just my opinion. If you don't agree, that's completely fine. But just my opinion on where the Steelers are at, man. This to me felt like rock bottom and really the low point of what I can remember from the Tomlin era. Look back at some other low points. They started out 0-4. I think it was 2013. They ended up finishing 8-8. That one was different because I felt like they had a couple tough breaks go in the first month of the season. You still had Big Ben in his prime, so you kind of thought that even coming off that tough playoff loss the year before, you kind of thought that they were going to get it together. And eventually they did. It was too late. They didn't make the playoffs. But it is what it is. That team was a flawed team, just like this one is, right? Um, I know a lot of the scar tissue from the fan base kind of stems from the playoff losses to Jacksonville, to Cleveland, those things. I really do view those. While I do think that those, from a fan perspective, are really tough to process, and they do stick with you for a really long time because you look at the opportunities missed and things like that. I think those are in a different bucket in terms of disappointment because you have higher expectations. You get to the dance, you don't perform as well, and you lose a chance. This to me, losing back to back at home to teams that are actively tanking. Like maybe not the Cardinals because they bring Kyler back. I get it, at least from a Cardinals perspective. Like I said, they admitted they didn't show up. They weren't ready. They took them lightly. It is what it is. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray. Anytime a team steps into a stadium with a quarterback advantage, and I think we can all probably agree at this point, Kyler's better than Pickett or Trubisky, some combination or whatever. Anytime the team steps in with a quarterback advantage, I think it does not surprise me when that team wins. That's just how the NFL goes. It's a quarterback league. If you have the better quarterback, you have a chance. You always have a chance. This week is different, though, because the Patriots have looked absolutely lifeless over the past couple of months. I mean, it is hard to explain how bad they have been. In the 3 games prior, they scored 13 points against the Colts, the Giants, and the Chargers. They're not playing the Chiefs, the Eagles, and other contending teams like that, okay? It's not like they went to San Francisco and got blitzed. They got shut out by the Chargers. Brandon Staley is going to get fired. That's how bad their defense and the Chargers have been. The Patriots are not even trying to win games. Like, I really do not believe that they're trying to win games. They're firmly in the Drake May, Caleb Williams sweepstakes. To come out and just lay an egg like this, embarrassing. Like, more than anything else, like I said, back-to-back losses like at home, it's really tough to process, especially when you consider this team started 6-3, went to 7-4, now 7-6. Their playoff odds were all the way up, I think, to like 78%, depending on what predictor you look at. New York Times, I think, had about 78%. Now they're down to like 30, 35%, somewhere in that range. If they end up missing the playoffs, that's going to be extremely disappointing because this last year, even if you compartmentalized it and said, okay, Roethlisberger's last year is the transition year. Last year was the rebuilding year. You got a rookie quarterback. You're playing with house money. Okay. If the run they went on in the second half of last year, house money. If they would have made the playoffs, house money. This year, though, was the year that they really needed to try to make the playoffs just because that is part of the process. Transition, rebuild, try to get back in the playoffs. That's a 3-year rebuild. I'm not saying that the Steelers were ever going to be contenders this year. That was never going to happen. But getting into the dance, I mean, they had like an 8.5, 9 win total, and they still may get there. But that is the expectation. If they don't make the playoffs this year, especially with all the other things that have happened in the AFC, like 3/4 of the AFC right now is on backup quarterbacks. It's not going to get any easier. Like, guys, I hate to tell y'all that. Like, next year, some of these guys are going to come back. Burrow, guys like that are going to come back, and it's going to be harder to make the postseason. It's really hard for me to understand, just where the Steelers are at in terms of it feels like the organization and like the message almost feels a little stale to me, or just they feel like stuck in the mud and like the game is kind of passing them by a little bit. Maybe not even just Tomlin in particular, but just as an organization. That's really how I feel about the Pats too. Two historic coaches that have accomplished a ton. Obviously, Belichick more so than Tomlin, but great coaches who have had a long run of success. But both of them seem like kind of stuck in their ways. It almost feels like the Steelers are this mired in mediocrity type of franchise. And I think in order for me to get really fully on board with this era of the Steelers, and I mean the Tomlin era, continuing and getting back like on the right track, like major organizational changes need to happen in the offseason. Major organizational changes. Like, new offensive coordinator is 100% going to happen. I mean, they fired Matt Canada. That decision in and of itself, a huge reason why this season is completely a waste on the offensive side of the ball. You're going to get a new offensive coordinator, 100%. Tomlin, the seat, in my opinion, now that he has not won a playoff game since 2016, the seat needs to be warm. But I am 100% willing to acknowledge some of the factors that have worked against him in recent seasons, whether lucky or unlucky. Um, but I am willing to run that back and definitely give him another year, even though I said the seat should be warm. But I think that the biggest thing is they have got to be active in terms of looking at a quarterback. Like, I don't, like I said, the last year or 2 years was the right time to develop a young quarterback because, they were going through this rebuild or transition on the fly while also still trying to win games. Whether you agree with Pickett as the prospect or got the guy they chose for that job, that's a whole different conversation. But I think you really just have to be honest with yourself about where the franchise is, being kind of stuck in this mediocre kind of tier of the NFL, which is like, in my opinion, the absolute worst place to be. And you have to look at the roster. Like, if you look around right now, they've got a combination of their defense is the oldest defense in the league by average starter age. You look at the guys that they've got over there. Cam Hayward's going to be 35 years old next year. This is something I brought up on Twitter earlier this week after they lost to the Cardinals. Cam Hayward's going to be 30 years old or 35 years old next year. TJ Watt's going to be 30. Megan Fitzpatrick's going to be 28. So you've got one guy that is on the tail end of his career, depending on if Cam comes back, which I think he probably will. And then you've got Watt and Fitzpatrick who are in the dead heat of their prime. Okay. You no longer have the time, in my opinion, to sit here and wait on Pickett's development. And we can go on and on about things that they should have done better for him to help him reach whatever his ceiling would have been coming out of college. But you can't run this version of the Steelers back. You can't. I truly do not believe that you can just plop an offensive coordinator in and say, okay, this guy, you run it back with Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky as his backup. If things go awry and Pickett really struggles out the gate, you can turn to Trubisky. That is not an option in my opinion. If that's the plan that they go with, I will be extremely surprised and disappointed. Or I shouldn't say extremely surprised, but I would be extremely disappointed. Just because I think that they really need to be aggressive about maximizing what is left of this window. I would absolutely hate for this to transpire where you lose the end of Hayward's career, you lose the prime of two really good players and two of the best defenders of their era in Watt and Fitzpatrick because you're waiting on a quarterback who could potentially be a baseline starter. Like, I don't see how you can, I guess, rationalize that in your head. Now, what that looks like in terms of the quarterback and the offensive coordinator options, we're just going to have to see how that plays out, man. Like, the Steelers have, as always, they have decisions that they're going to have to make on the cat. They got guys with heavy contracts that they're going to have to look at. Cam Hayward being one of those guys. Like I said, I anticipate him being back, but they've got guys on some big contracts that I think they're going to have to look at. Trubisky being one of them. They just signed him to an extension. What happens with that? I do not think that he can be the backup next year, especially if you're looking, even if you just bring in a guy to compete with Pickett or to be insurance in case like he doesn't improve or they just want to move on in general. I don't think he can be here. So that's one guy. I think you got to look at some other contracts. Larry Ogunjobi's got a big deal. Patrick Peterson's got a big deal. Allen Robinson, I think we all kind of knew that this was only like a 1 year stopgap thing. But there's some other money options that they've got to move money around. TJ Watt, you can restructure his contract. Money is not really an issue or should preclude them from being aggressive in terms of getting an upgrade at the quarterback position. Now, I completely understand. Like, I know there's a lot of Pitt fans that probably follow the channel. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I know, like, my honesty and my transparency with the way that I feel about certain things, certain players, performances, the way that I kind of do my content does sometimes rub people the wrong way. I won't apologize for that because that's just me being me. And I completely get it. If y'all disagree, then that is what it is. But I just really think that the Steelers absolutely have to get aggressive and maximizing the rest of this window. Now, whatever that looks like, I think that is what needs to happen if you're going to run this thing back with Tomlin. Because let's just be honest, they're not blowing this thing up. And people also, I think, have to understand that this team has some talent on it. Not only do they have some guys that are in their prime or at the tail end of their prime, I think Omar Khan did a pretty good job in his first ever draft to himself. I think Joey Porter Jr. is a heck of a player. I think Keanu Benton's a heck of a player. I think that Roderick Jones is going to be a heck of a player. Like, they've got some really young pieces, but the time is now for this defense, and your best players are in their prime or about to exit their prime. You have to maximize this window, and that means making a real push for the playoffs next year, whatever that is. Now, Pickett comes back, he lights it up the final 2 games of the season, whatever. They get to the playoffs, he plays extremely well. Obviously, at that point, we can revisit this take, and my opinions, as always, are fluid on guys or decisions or anything like that. I don't ever want to be one of those guys who just sticks to a take because it's my take and I want to be right. Like, there's plenty of stuff that I'm wrong about in general, but I'm not going to be wrong just because I want to be stubborn. If I'm going to be wrong, I'll own up to it and I'll change my mind. But that's just how I feel like today. I understand. I think Tomlin's seat needs to be warm. I think you've got to start thinking about if he's the right guy in terms of leading this next era of the Steelers. And part of that, again, is going to come down to the offensive coordinator hire. Look, there is no more important thing that the Steelers do in the offseason than whoever gets put in that spot. Like, because the last several hires have been extremely uninspiring. You can go back and just list all the different guys, whatever. The Canada hiring was a travesty, in my opinion, from day one. Hated it then, hate it now. But if you trust Tomlin to make that decision, he's got to nail it. And if he doesn't, there has to be some type of, and I think there will be consequences to it, because the offense isn't going to succeed, because the play caller is one of the most important figures or people within an organization. And if you don't have that guy in place, it sets everything else back. I mean, I think you can see it. Even for me, not being an extremely big Pickett fan coming out as a prospect, you can see it in his development. Like, I really did believe that Pickett was going to be a at least serviceable baseline starter at the NFL level, and he's not even close to that right now. Like, really, if you look at all the numbers, they've gotten like bottom 5 quarterback play, and I know that all of that is not necessarily on him. All right, so the supporting cast has been, or the ecosystem or environment for him has not been great, and that sucks. And if that's the way that things go, then it's unfortunate. But I also don't think he's played well enough for me to say, oh yeah, just throw him in there with any offensive coordinator and he'll have success or whatever. I don't think that's necessarily the case either. So, but that's the end of the broad spectrum kind of state of the Steelers type of rant. Just wanted to get all those things off my chest, because I'll be firing off some tweets tomorrow, and like, people are going to ask me questions and stuff. I'm probably just going to direct them to this video and just say, here, watch this. But I appreciate you guys tapping in with me as always. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop me a comment. Hey, and if I'm wrong or y'all disagree, let me know if you disagree. Let me know what you disagree with. I'm all for a healthy conversation. And all that stuff. That's why I'm here. I like to talk ball. That's why I have the channel. That's why I have the Twitter page. I just like to talk ball. So if y'all have other opinions on what you think the Steelers should do, shouldn't do, what you'd like to see them do, or any questions or whatever, drop them in the comment box. And then I'll be back, like I said, later, sometime this weekend with some type of film room. And I will check you guys next time. Peace and love. Enjoy your weekend as well.